Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crafting Jokes and Puns 2.0. We're here with author Allen Brokken, homeschool dad, and author of a really awesome Towers of Light series.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here today.
So, Allen, tell us a little bit about yourself and what we are going to learn today. I see we have 3 people live with us now.
So, hey, everybody. I'm Allen Brokken. I'm a homeschool dad. That little emoji you see there that says I'm the cool dad. Everybody talks about that. That's a gift from my daughter because she thinks I'm the cool dad. But everybody talks about me because I tell a lot of bad jokes, and I don't know, that seems to entertain people. I'm an author. I've written this series of books, the Towers of Light series, and provide sort of a multimedia language arts experience for learning. And I also like to engineer a good dad joke, and we're going to talk today about dad jokes, how to make them, stuff like that. But also, I'm hoping to hear some of your jokes. That's what I'm hoping to get out of today.
Please share in the comments where you guys are joining us from and who you have joining us. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the spring giveaway for the Homeschool Quest, I would highly recommend that you go over there after this giveaway. I'm going to drop a link after the video to the giveaway. We're giving away a mini cry cut, and over $2,000 in homeschool prizes. So wait till the end of the video, and I will be dropping a link in the comments for that. Okay. So I think that we're ready to go ahead and start learning about how to tell really awesome jokes.
All right, that sounds great.
And cringy ones too. Good dad
These
jokes.
are all going to be like this whole presentation's in two modes here, right? So first of all, we've got worksheets. If you go to towersoflight.net/joke class, you can get the worksheet if you don't already have it. But it'll be there for you to download later if you didn't have it before the class. But it's a great way to kind of work through what we're talking about in real time. And so what we're going to learn today, we're going to give you some dad joke basics. So I'm assuming if you're on this call, you're not a dad, but maybe you are, and you just need some help getting your stuff. And so we're going to talk about plays on words, twisted of a phrase, which is like advanced plays on words. And then we're going to talk about fun with homophones. These are words that sound like each other. And then I actually forgot it on this list, but we've got a new thing on joke theory, like what makes a joke actually funny. So we're going to talk a little bit about that before we get into then how you actually do it, how you set it up, adding some pow to your punchline and timing and things like that. And then we'll close out with some things you want to avoid when you're telling jokes. So with that in mind, let's get into the basics, right? So what makes a joke a dad joke? I think the first thing it's a dad joke when the reaction is something like this, right? If the general reaction of people in the room is a face palm, you've probably told a dad joke. There's also this this just little bit of a maybe laugh that tells you it's a dad joke, but it's really started this whole group of jokes that aren't really fully formed. It's like part of a joke. It could be a joke if it was better put together, but as it is, it's just a minor thing, right? And so let's talk about the techniques. First of all, we're going to get into a play on words where we've just taken a word and played with it just a little bit, right? Then we're going to go into twist of a phrase, which is really now we've taken a common phrase or something that people commonly say as a set of words together, and now we've twisted it for a different meaning. And then finally, we're going to get into homophones, words that sound like other words. So here's a good one. You can never trust an oak tree. They're way too shady. Okay. You see, that's a play on words. Shady. Trees are shady. Being shady is considered to be not having good business dealings. So you get it? Like, if I have to explain it, it's probably a dad joke. Another one. How do programmers arrange their crayons? They use color coding. Get it? Coding, coder, programmers, coding, color coding. It's a play on words. We're playing on the words here. The last one, what do you call a flower that runs on electricity? A power plant. Again, a play on words. Okay. So, audience, I know that you all are super excited about this class. You want to learn how to do dad jokes. I'd love to see you make a play on words. Can you take 2 minutes now? And this is gonna run. And uh, can you, in just a couple seconds, sit down and think about a play on words? And I'm watching the chat. Hopefully, I'll see some good plays on words in the chat.
If you guys are watching this on the replay, feel free to still add your comments. We're going to be watching the comments after the video is live as well.
So, Amelia, do you have a play on words?
That's a good question. I don't think I have one right now.
Or am I barking up the wrong tree?
You always make me laugh.
Well, um, I'm just hoping that after this first set of jokes, nobody leaves. You see what I did there? I'm playing on words. I'm playing on words. No takers on the play on words. Well, folks, if you're not interested in sharing a joke, can you share where you're from so I can regionalize these jokes a little bit, maybe?
Last time we had some people from Australia as well as the US. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because some of the jokes didn't make sense in Australia, even though they speak English. Like the colloquialisms are different.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any jokes, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. Twist of a phrase. So this is where you're taking something that's commonly said and moving it around a little different. So I'm reading a book on anti-gravity. It's impossible to put it down. Putting it, you can't put a book down, in this case, anti-gravity. I could also say in this case, because it's a light read, right? It's a light read as a phrase. Uh, so anyway, that's one way to twist a phrase. Another way to do it: why do scientists trust atoms? Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make everything up, right? Again, make everything up as a phrase. You're seeing how I'm doing this here, right? Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because it was outstanding in its field. But I'm crashed. These are classics. These are I'm sorry. These are so bad. I probably shouldn't bring them up. But it is a whole class of jokes. Is this idea of turns of phrases, puns, that kind of thing. So it's your turn. Do you have a twist of a phrase for me that you could share? I'd love to see it.
Share in the comments either where you're joining us from, or if you are here and your joke, or if you are here to learn how to make more jokes, just share where you're joining us from.
Oh, it stopped playing.
I do see that we had a couple new people join us. If you're just joining us now, we are talking all about how to craft jokes and puns. Please tell us where you're joining us from in the comments.
And if you just joined, I just so you know, I am an author, and I'm working on a book on anti-gravity. You're not going to be able to put it down. I realize that's the second time around for some of you. Sorry about that, but for new people, they need to know the quality of jokes that I'm starting with, and it can only go up from here. That's the best part, right? Like starting with the dad jokes is on purpose because if you want to give people a warm up, right? This is how you get started in these things. Another twist of a phrase is a good one. Did you hear the rumor about peanut butter? I better not spread it.
That one gets me every time because I always forget.
Because if I started telling everybody about it and the baker found out, I'd be toast. And then for this presentation, you'd be in a jam. Sorry, these are horrible, but I can do this all day. Like that's just what I do. All right. So the next thing we're talking about is homophones. These are words that sound like other words or are a part of another word. And so we've got our meow meow here. And meow meow took a run on the treadmill. It was a catastrophe. Get it? Catastrophe. Like it's a homophone. It goes together. Another one might be, wasn't that joke perfect? See, homophone. He didn't really run on the treadmill. I was just kitten. Okay. See, these are great things we can do with jokes where we're taking a word, sounds like another word, or is part of another word, and we throw it in there. And at this point, after having we're on our ninth dad joke or more in the show, you're really hoping I'll just shut my meowth, right? See another homophone. That's the idea. You're taking a word and putting it in there. So let's see what you got. Audience, can you show me your best dad joke? You've got 3 to work from, right? You've got a play on words, twist of a phrase, and now you've got homophones. I'd love to see your dad joke in the comments. Well, I guess our audience just isn't very joke sturdy.
So I have one for you.
Okay.
What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie?
What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie?
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated. I like that. That is an example of what we just talked about. That's a homophone, right? That's excellent.
Looks like we have another person joining us. Please go ahead and share where you're joining us in the comments and share your best dad joke.
Yeah, we're just talking about homophones if you're just joining us. And so a homophone is when you've taken a word and replaced it with a word that sounds like it. And so our joke, that we started off this section with was my kitten went for a run on a treadmill. It was a catastrophe. See, play on that is a homophone. We're using parts of a word to tell the dad joke.
So, what do you call a factory that makes really great products?
What?
A satisfactory.
That's nice. That's nice. I like it. A satisfactory. Excellent. All right. So everything we've heard is sort of in the dad joke realm. Now we want to get into what makes a joke actually funny, right? Like there are some theories behind humor. If you've taken this class before, we're getting into the new stuff now. And so what makes a joke funny? I think the first thing is biology. And I know the moms on this call really all of a sudden they're saying, Mr. Brokken, no, don't talk to me about potty humor. Kids don't need to hear about this. But it is true. For whatever reason, biological processes are just funny. And we can't help it. You just can't help it, right? And so a joke like this one, why was the pencil so stinky? It was a number 2. It's just a great example of biological humor. It's something that every 8-year-old boy I know would think was funny, and a lot of the girls would think it was funny, and everyone would think it was gross, and that makes it funny. And so that's just the thing, right? Potty humor comes. It's a type of humor that's been around since there's been humans, and we don't know why it's funny, but we think it's funny.
So we have someone here who said, "Why can't an egg tell another egg a joke?"
Why?
I don't know. Why not?
Oh, we're waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, we're waiting for the punchline.
And we have someone from Arizona. Well, we'll have to find out the punchline to the joke.
Okay. Share it
But
in the
moving
comments.
on, so this is biological humor, right? And you can think of it. You've heard potty humor, that kind of thing. To be clear, I don't usually ascribe to this in the jokes that I put out, just because I know how much moms disapprove of potty humor. But I will tell you that the number one type of jokes I get from people at homeschool conventions is people telling me potty jokes, and this one came from a homeschool convention. I had a kid tell me a week ago this joke, and so there we go. That's what happens. The next kind of joke or theory is this idea of superiority. Okay. So it's the idea that you or the audience is better than the person we're talking about in this story. So a man with a tinfoil hat walks into the library and asks the librarian for books about paranoia. The librarian whispers, "Don't look now, but they're right behind you." Right. And so you got this conspiracy theory guy, little wacky, and now you're making fun of him by saying, the books are behind him, they're going to get him, kind of thing. That's a superiority kind of play. A lot of stuff you'll see in like kids humor. So if you read Diary of the Wimpy Kid, or you read other books that are for kids in this age group, there are a lot of superiority type jokes where one person or a group of people think they're superior to others, and that's how they give the joke. And so this is actually, unfortunately, for a lot of the kids here, this is sort of junior high humor, right? If potty humor is the humor of like 8-year-olds, superiority humor is the mean humor of junior high and high school, where the joke is on you because you're sort of inferior in some way. Kind of like we think, the guy in the tinfoil hat might be a little inferior to us and be super paranoid. So that's the next way that jokes are funny, is that you've got sort of shared superiority with the audience over the butt of the joke. The next thing is incongruity, and that's most of the time when we think about jokes, it's these things that don't go together. So, man walks into a pet shop and asks the owner, "Do you sell talking parrots?" The owner replies, "Of course, we have one right over there." The man looks over at the parrot sitting quietly on a perch and says, "Hey, can you talk?" The parrot looks back and says, "Don't know, can you?" Right? You're not expecting the parrot to say that. Like, it's incongruous, right? And it causes you to laugh. And so a lot of jokes fall into that category of what you said just didn't follow. It didn't go together, and because it doesn't go together, it's funny. And so you just see a lot of humor like that. And in a lot of cases, I would say this is some of the best humor, because incongruity isn't necessarily making someone the butt of a joke, right? A lot of the incongruity that occurs in jokes is just, I wasn't expecting that. That was different. That wasn't what I thought, right? That kind of thing. And so these can be really good jokes. And I would say, going back to, if potty humor is kind of the grade school thing, and superiority is kind of high school, junior high, doing good jokes that are incongruous are kind of an adult thing. Like, it takes some thought usually to come up with these and to put these together. The next thing is surprise, and so this one is just like it sounds. It's like you just were shocked that something happens. So a husband and wife are dressed up for a night on the town. The man asks the woman to come close so he can whisper something to her. He starts in a whisper, "You're beautiful," right? And so if you see that, you're going to laugh because she's going to be startled and it's freaked out. But she doesn't think it's funny. And surprise jokes are that kind of thing, right? Like when I was a kid, there were these electroshock hand shaker things that was common, or like a dribble cup or a water squirting flower. Any of those kind of things fall into the surprise category of you're catching someone unaware, and it's the reaction of everybody else to that person freaking out is what makes it funny. So to a certain extent, it kind of falls into the superiority thing, because if you weren't surprised and they were, that's kind of funny to you. But the gist of it is this is its own type of humor. And like when I was a kid, I loved the Three Stooges, and so much of their humor falls into this surprise. Like it's a shock that this thing just happened. It wasn't something you were expecting. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is relief. And this is like getting away from something. So you remember the classic joke, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock. Knock, knock.
Who's
Knock,
there?
knock. Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Orange, you glad I didn't say banana? The humor in that joke is the relief that this joke is over. This joke was horrible. Why is it going on and on and on and on? And then you finally get there, and it's funny. And there's a lot of things that you'll see in the movies and in TV that are funny, not because what happened was funny, but you're just over this stressful thing that happened in the show. You also see this just as this weird human reaction in like arguments, right? Sometimes you'll be having an argument with somebody and it gets really tense, and then somebody says something and you both break up laughing, right? And it's like, why did we just break up laughing? We were mad at each other or whatever. That is relief. That is a fundamental theory of relief, of humor, is sometimes something just goes on long enough, you need a good laugh to get over it. So with that in mind, I don't have a work session on that. I just really wanted to give you those 5 theories. So let's back up just to review. We've got our biological humor, our potty jokes. We all know those are funny. Superiority is kind of a common thing we do, where there's sort of a butt of the joke and everyone else is sort of superior to them. Incongruity is when your joke is just like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. Surprise is what it sounds like. You've done something to shock somebody and it's funny to see their reaction. And then relief is this thing has gone on and on and on. Please stop. And then it does all of a sudden and you laugh. So those are ways to construct a joke. Using any one of those techniques is something that will make things funny. But if you want to actually tell a joke that's funny, you've got to do some work in advance to make that go. So did we get some more jokes before I go on?
What did the ocean say to the beach? Nothing. It just waved.
Nothing. It just waved. Nice. That's excellent. That is a total dad joke. I love it. And that falls into our twist of a phrase that we said earlier, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about taking those ideas of incongruity and even potty humor, and we're going to turn that into a recipe. We're going to make it funny. So we're going to talk about setting up your joke. We're going to add some pow to our punchline, talk a little bit about how timing works, and then we're going to talk about how delivery is part of this. It's not just for pizza. So I'm gonna do a joke. I'm going to walk through one here. So a couple years ago, there were some guys working on my street, and they were out there all the time, every day, blocking stuff off. And one day I see this guy. He's kind of in this safety vest, and it says like safety officer on his hat, and the back of his truck is completely full of cases and cases of peanut butter. And I'm like, what is going on here? And so I went up to him and I said, this is kind of weird. It looks like you're the safety officer here. Why do you have so much peanut butter? And the guy looks at me and says, well, just in case we end up with a traffic jam. But I'm crash. Okay, so that we're going to dissect that. We're going to talk about the setup. We're going to talk that through why that's funny. And that's funnier than some of the stuff I said earlier, although it's not a great joke, but it's pretty good. And the reason I use that one is because it's actually one of my better, on YouTube, that joke got lots of views, lots of comments. People like that joke. And while it was kind of a dad joke, there was enough setup and story to it that it really made it kind of funny, as opposed to if I just said, a one-liner. So let's talk about this. And what you do when you set up the joke is the first thing you've got to give it a general premise. So if we go back to my last thing, I started with a general premise of construction work. And that's something most people have some idea of. If you've ever lived in a city, been to a city, you've seen construction, right? Like that's something that you can kind of put in your mind. And that gives us kind of the premise. But it also sets some expectations for the audience, right? When you set it up, you're setting up something that this is probably going to be something to do with road work, something to do with cars, maybe something to do with cement, something. But you've got an idea that when we did the setup, where it's at, right? And so it's your turn. Let's start to think about a setting that you're going to do for your joke. We're gonna tell a little more complicated joke and all that. So spend a couple minutes, and if you've got the worksheets, towersoflight.net/joke class, you can use the worksheet to kind of write down the first part of your joke. So go ahead and let's put together a setting for your joke. So Amelia, I'm curious because you're a writer too. Do you ever build jokes into your books? Like, what's the setting like if you do that kind of thing?
It's usually going to be like situational humor.
Okay.
So, somebody is usually it's like in an intense situation, and then somebody, like, for example, one of the characters is trying to protect the king from getting assassinated. But every time that he is going to go stop someone, his girlfriend, who doesn't know that he's this like secret society guy who's protecting the king, keeps coming up in the middle of him trying to do things like, "Hey, do you want this cake?" And he's just like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I got to go over here." And so it's just this kind of continuous gag where they're trying to get away and also not raise suspicion.
Okay. So the setup though there would be there's a castle and a king and his guard, right? Like that would be the setup for a joke in your space.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I'm really curious. Do you have a setting for your jokes you're going to tell audience out there? Any place or time, kind of thing that you're thinking of? Love to see that in the comments. All right. Well, we're about out of time. You can keep working on this later. You can see how this develops for the other jokes we're doing. But that's the setting. So next, we're going to talk about the punchline. Whoops, I went one slide too far. Okay, so once you've got the setup, you're also looking at the punchline is some unexpected conclusion, a surprise that's a change in status. So we talked earlier about the superiority thing being a thing, or it's possible that's one way to do it, right? Moving somebody from one status to another. The other one is the clever outcome, right? So you've got kind of three ways to think about this. Unexpected conclusion is something that you just didn't see coming. If we go way back to my joke about the parrot, remember we didn't expect the parrot to go back and ask the guy, I don't know, can you talk? Right? Like that was an unexpected conclusion. The clever outcome, from the jokes earlier, it's this idea that the peanut butter was for the traffic jam. Maybe he was just carrying peanut butter for whatever reason, right? But the traffic jam, he's making fun of me, that kind of stuff. That could also be a change in status. But the net of it is you're looking for something that your audience isn't expecting. All of those things tend to make a good joke. So now that you've had your setting, what's your punchline? Like what are you going to do to conclude your story there? So in your ongoing thing about, she keeps interrupting this kind of ongoing gag, does it ever get resolved? Does she end up figuring out that what was happening?
No, because they keep coming up with more and more elaborate excuses for why he's ducking into different hidden passageways, or why he's like roughed up. He's like, I just I tripped or I
Mhm.
ran into a wall, and so she just thinks that he's incompetent.
Well, that
But
is that is a whole story arc in and of itself. Incompetence is a good way to make some humor.
so I have one when I'm like setting up my my punny joke,
Mhm.
following your script here. So if you guys are watching this on the replay, be sure to comment along with each of the different prompts. We would love to see your jokes as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I did this last year and came back to the list a few times just to see what people would put in. It's a lot of fun to see what you all craft. All righty. So the last bit that's kind of important in all of this, though, between your setup and your punchline, is the timing of it all. Right? You've got to leave some space to allow anticipation, create tension, and add power to the punchline, right? I think one of the things you think about is as I told my joke, I spent a little bit of time setting up that there was a lot of construction, that it was going on and on and on. And going back to that idea about release, right? There is this idea that if you draw it out just enough, when you actually get that punchline, people are at the I'm exhausted point of this joke. Let's make it joke, let's make it funny, and it adds to it, right? Um, because if you think about that banana orange joke, like that's one of the oldest ones I can remember as a kid hearing about. But it was the uh you know, if you say that 7 times, nobody wants to keep going that long, right? Like nobody wants to go that many times. You can kind of get away with 3, maybe 4, but much longer than that, and you've drawn it out too long. So you got to be careful to both, drop it too quick, and you've lost the anticipation and you've lost the sense of surprise and power that you get from that. On the other hand, if you draw it out too long, they just want to walk away. Um, and so that's the other thing to note that a lot of people don't realize is um, people like Jerry Seinfeld say that it's about 1 in 70 jokes actually work. So they sit down high end comedians will sit down and write joke after joke after joke after joke, and only 1 in 70 actually lands. And so that's why it's really important to practice this, right? Like take the worksheet that I've given you all and practice and make 5, 6, 7, 10 jokes just to see what comes out of it. And who knows, maybe you'll do better than 1 in 70. I know that a lot of my jokes don't land, so I think it's fair to say that if Jerry Seinfeld only hits 1 in 70, I probably would only hit 1 in 210 or something like that. I don't know. The other thing that matters in the delivery is sort of your tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. And so I don't know if you noticed this earlier when I was talking about the joke. Like I whispered and then I went boo, right? Like that tone of voice switch made the joke the way it was. A lot of times, if I tell the one I told about uh, peanut butter, I'll do this. I'll get really conspiratorial and I'll come up close and I'll be like, "Did you hear the rumor about peanut butter? I better not spread it." Right? So the tone and looking around and the body language, all of that adds in like, "Oh, he's about to tell me something impressive." And then no, it's not impressive. It's horrible. It's a dad joke, right? So all of that matters and that's part of the practice, right? The exact same joke told in a flat voice, it loses all of its power in the process. At the same time, what you do with your face matters. And I think that was actually one of the things, if you remember COVID and masks and all that, like being funny with a mask on is hard because you lose so much of your expression in that process. And of course, having lots of body language, being able to move around is a big part of the delivery. So let's take your turn now and think about this joke you wrote down. Do you need to add some time to it? Do you need to make it build up some more? Do you maybe need to squeeze it down some more, like something like that? And then think about like actually you could get up at home and actually practice the body language, the voice, like practice it a little bit, and then come back to us and tell us how it went. Hopefully you're there with somebody else maybe at home that can check out your joke and tell us how you did on your delivery.
So, my punny joke, are you guys ready for that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about the fruit robbery at the grocery store?
I did not hear about the fruit robbery at the grocery store.
Well, they caught the pair of robbers, but the banana split.
That's a good one. I like it. It's very punny. The other thing is actually the worst part, though, the worst thing that can happen is if you get stuck with me on an elevator. Because I always go like, especially at homeschool conferences, if I'm on an elevator, I'm like, "Did y'all hear the joke of the day?" And then I'll just go on. And I've got 2 or 3 jokes that I can get to the 7th level of dad joke that I can just keep going. Every floor, bing, I've got another line for it. But that's with practice, right? Like I think one of the big things about the delivery and all of this is you have to practice it to get good at it. And that's kind of what Jerry Seinfeld would say is, that 1 in 70 that works, that one then gets practiced 1,000 times to really make it good and make it funny and make people enjoy it. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about comedy in general is it is a performance sport. Like it's just as hard to land a joke as it is to land a 3-point shot in basketball, like realistically. And maybe it's even easier sometimes than the 3-point thing in basketball because at least the hoop is at the same level and same distance all the time, where your audience could just not think what you're saying is funny, right? Like you just might have the wrong audience. I was on a cruise recently, and one of the comedians just didn't align to the audience. Like he didn't understand who he was talking to, and so he just didn't get a lot of laughs. All right, so I'm hoping you're having fun with this. If you're out there, that you've got your worksheet and you've come up with a good joke. I'd love to see your finished jokes in the comments here on the webpage. I know there's an event page on Facebook. Maybe share it there if you can't find the comments. We'd love to see that. And then I don't know why it's doing the 2-minute timer twice. Okay, so to close this out, there's some things you need to avoid when telling jokes. The first thing is your setting common, right? That is the place and stuff like for the audience you're talking to, are they going to get that? One of the things I didn't realize is like peanut butter is a very sort of American thing, and peanut butter jokes make sense here and that kind of stuff. But peanut butter is not as common everywhere else in the world. Like there's lots of places where peanut butter is just not even a thing. It's not something they have. So telling a peanut butter joke doesn't work, but maybe you talk about just butter then, right? Or something jam or something else that is common in the space. You need to make sure that it's common. The next one is, are you using slang or jargon, right? So some of the jokes come in this space of slang and jargon, and occasionally I end up at conferences like the National Religious Broadcasters Conference, where it's got an international audience. So people may be speaking English, but they don't understand the slang you've used to do that play on words. They don't understand the local language. Or the last one is, does it require pop culture? So my all-time best joke I ever told, and this is just because of like the number of TikToks I got on it, right? Like I got hundreds of thousands of people watch this on TikTok. Has to do with stormtroopers, okay, from Star Wars. Now, if you're not a Star Wars person, you wouldn't know that stormtroopers can't hit anything, right? Like stormtroopers miss their targets. That's like a joke. It's a common thing. And so I told this joke on TikTok that was, so my son was getting ready to go do his driver's test the other day, and I handed him a stormtrooper helmet, and he looked at me and said, "Why are you giving me this, Dad?" And I said, "So you don't hit anything." Okay. If you understand pop culture, if you understand stormtroopers miss stuff, that joke is funny. But if you don't know anything about Star Wars, it's like, what? I don't get it. Like, so you got to be careful. Like, you don't want to give the audience homework. I had this really funny joke about Baby Yoda and a crate dragon, and that crate dragons don't eat their greens, and this whole thing. And it was like, it's just too long. It's too complicated. If you don't understand Star Wars, there's only this small number of people that would get it. So I never told the joke on TikTok. But it's all about that. You got to find your audience. They got to know what you're talking about. And this is the one I was going to say, right? Was so Baby Yoda, he's green. Crate Dragon's this big critter in Star Wars. And it's like, why did moms not want them to air the episode where the Crate Dragon eats Baby Yoda? And it's because he spit him out and he wouldn't eat his greens, right? Again, only Star Wars people would get that. It's homework. The other thing is, be careful about being offensive. We already talked about potty humor and why, yes, potty humor is very funny, because for whatever reason, humans want to laugh at biological processes. I don't know why. Understand your audience, right? Like if understand who's going to be okay with that and who's not. And, listen to your mom. If your mom says don't tell potty humor, just don't do it. But anyway, know your audience. And not just that, but also consider like environmental factors, right? So if something traumatic just happened in your area, right? Like a big fire just burned down some building and it was traumatic, you probably don't want to tell firefighter jokes right then, right? Like consider the overall environment and what's going on. And current events, right? So these things, understand where you're at, understand who you're talking to, because that 1 in 70 part of that is, if you're a comedian that only does comedy in New York City, there are jokes that just aren't going to land there at all. But on the other hand, would be completely hilarious in South Texas. And so it's the kind of thing of just understand where you're at, because you can be really offensive and not even mean it, because what you don't understand is, in this audience, I'm using superiority, right? Like the butt of the joke is somebody that I'm using superiority, but everybody in the room identifies with the person that's the butt of the joke, not the person that's superior, right? Like that's part of the thing. And then the last bit, as you're telling jokes, don't laugh at your own joke. And that can be hard if you really like your joke, if you think you're really funny. But you can kind of ruin it, like especially in the delivery. If you know what's coming and it's hilarious and it cracks you up every time, and you start to giggle as you tell it, you've ruined the joke for everybody else because you've messed up the delivery. So be aware, don't laugh at your own jokes. It's kind of a bad idea. And so with that, if you like the kind of humor I've got, these dad jokes, my homeschool unit studies have a dad joke of the day in them. As far as I know, I'm the only language arts that has the joke of the day for 24 weeks. 5 days a week, 24 weeks, you get a dad joke of the day, in addition to learning great things like vocabulary, reading comprehension, and all that. And there's an awesome story that goes with it. But anyway, And you can get the first one for free. So the first 4 weeks, first 20 jokes free. towersoflight.net/homeschool.
And I went ahead and dropped a link to that in the comments for everyone, so you can easily go and click that and go over and check out all of the awesome stuff that he has for his books. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. If you guys, I see a couple people just joined us at the end. The replay will be available in just a few moments, so you will be able to enjoy learning all about how to be able to tell funny jokes.
Thanks, everybody. I had fun.
All right. Thank you so much,